Alright guys, so I showed you how we're prepping the beds right now, and I think I'll just take you on a little tour of the garden and kind of what it looks like here in late March. So I'll flip the camera around and take you on a walk. Alright, so as we get to the house, the favorite of everybody is the catio. Cats are not out, but so the cats can come through the door into the basement and kind of have access to free reign to go under the patio. So they're always a big hit. They like getting out here in the nice weather. So the first thing we have is our first rain barrel here. So I kind of just set it up last weekend. It comes off the downspout, and so that'll keep us fully watered throughout the year. Last year we did not use a single drop of water out of the faucet for the outside gardening, and it's really great because it reduces the amount of energy that's used to pump all the water, and it kind of keeps everything local on site. The other side here is we got our have our herb garden. So this isn't really functioning yet, but the first thing we have coming up here is sorrel. So sorrel is a nice leafy green. It's got a little lemony flavor to it. But we also have other herbs that we'll be planting throughout the year. We got mint here, and we got our chives are just starting to come up as well. So the chives are one of the first things to pop up. So these are usable right away. We also have some other beds that we were kind of covering through the winter. Here we got our stay away pricker zone. So these are Marion berries, kind of like a blackberry that we'll get sometime in the middle of the year. So as I was showing you guys how I was prepping, so this is the annual bed. Currently we got 5 rows that come off the back here. The wood chip pile is convenient because they can back the truck right up the side of the house and drop it right there. Here's where we kept our beehives last year, but we'll probably get rid of those this year and extend and put more rows of annuals in there this year so that we can kind of maximize that space. It was really hard to work in the garden last year when the beehives were there because the bees would kind of take over the whole garden. So really kind of maximize the garden this year. Kind of continuing to walk, we got our second rain barrel. Keep an eye on your town. Because the town will offer these at a pretty good discount. We got this last year from East Long Meadow for I think $20-25, and we've been collecting water off the porch. And like I said earlier, we used all the water on site came from our 2 rain barrels last year. So now we got our chicken coop. We have our coop kind of secured to the back of the garage, and then the chicken run back here. So when we come and get eggs, we kind of pop it open, and we got a chicken in there laying now, and we can just collect our eggs. Get them about once a day. So in the afternoons, we can kind of let the chickens roam. You don't want to let them roam in the morning because that's when they typically lay their eggs, but we can let them out and kind of roam around the yard. So on the chicken run, we have a kiwi vine. So the kiwi vine is great because it's really sparse in the winter, so all the sunlight can really get in there, keep everything dry. And in the summer, this thing goes crazy, and it'll be fully foliaged and really shade out this whole run. But as you can see, you got to prune probably 80-90% of this every year. Otherwise, it'll really take over and strangle everything down. So that's what we got there. Off the back, we've been planting some forage. We got comfrey. So comfrey is just starting to come up here, and this is a really great permaculture plant. And what you can do is you can split it at the root. This is really the time of year where you want to get in here and split it. So you can get in and kind of split and transplant it around. So we probably doubled the size of our comfrey last year, and we could double it again this year if we wanted, certainly. So we got some blueberry bushes over here, still a little small. And then kind of take you around to the perennial side. We got our apple trees that we pruned. We pruned those probably February or March. Really nice time to get out on a warm day in February and have something to do when it's nice out. But not quite ready to plant anything in the ground yet. So we got an apple tree here. We got a cherry tree. We got a peach tree, apricot, plum, another apple. We got 2 new cherries last fall. Then we got our pond. Ooh, fish sighting. This is the first time I've seen the fish this year. I don't know if you guys can see that, but they got we just kind of threw 10 or so goldfish in when we first made this pond, and they've flourished. So they've stayed little, but this proves they overwintered again. So we still got little goldfish here. So the pond is nice. It really keeps things diverse in the garden. So we can have a water source and in a place for wildlife to come. We actually had giant pelican that was like the size of this tree just kind of land here. Pelican's not the word. Some giant water-loving bird kind of frequented back here for us last year. So kind of as we go further and farther back, we have different types of plants that maybe get a little more unique and diverse. So this is our asparagus patch, which we're still maybe a couple weeks away from asparagus. So this is probably the first edible plant that we'll get throughout the year, but it's probably April before we'll get that. We have currants, so we have black currants that we grew from cuttings, and we have red currants, and they're just starting to open up. So you can see this is the time of year where the greenery is just starting to show through. We have one of our most productive plants. We got raspberries. So we have two types of raspberries. We have a 2-year fruiting variety here. And so what happens is, try to show you an example. So you have, it fruits on 2nd year stems. So the stems that are left, like this one here, so this is something that came out of the ground last year, and this will fruit this year. But then the dry looking ones, like here, so this had come out 2 years ago, fruited last year, and so what we got to do is we got to cut these back, because this is no longer useful. It already fruited last year. So we really want to keep the ones that haven't fruited, and those will produce probably in July. The other type we have that goes crazy is we cut it down every spring. So every spring, we just did this a week ago, we come in and we cut down, and you can mow down these raspberries right to the ground. And what they'll do is they'll send new shoots up this year from all the roots that are here, and they'll fruit on the first year. So they'll fruit later in the year, so probably the fall, September, October, and we probably are pulling probably a pound of raspberries a day for a 3-4 week period in the fall out of just this one row. So that's really cool. We got 4 apple trees back here, which are really starting to come into their own. So we'll keep those pruned. So what we do is we come in when we're pruning. We're really looking to prevent any kind of crossing. So you don't want any branches crossing each other. You basically want to create a lot of airflow. And it encourages fruiting to prune it down pretty well. So here's our second garlic patch, or actually our first garlic patch. You can see kind of the garlic here shooting out of the ground. It's one of the first things to come up. And so this will give us probably just this one bed that we got hay on. This will probably give us 50 bulbs. And that'll last us probably 6 months. So that's really been productive for us. So back here is kind of a work in progress. So if anyone's watching this thinking, oh my God, I could never do that. Here's what it looks like to start. We throw tarps down and kill the grass. So this whole area was just grass, probably 4 or 5 years ago. So what we do is we throw this down, and I've probably left this here a little too long. We'll pull this up, and it'll give soil that we then have to amend. We have to keep adding to, and then we can plant into. So this pond is actually right where a giant tree was, probably the size of these trees back here. And now we have it surrounded by a peach tree, a couple cherry trees, and then a bunch of ground cover. So right here we got strawberries. So these plants, they actually do a really good job of spreading. So they send out little runners every year. So this is actually the bed, and then over here is actually the pathway, and it'll send out little runners so that you'll get them sprouting up all over the place. So what we do is we also plant bare root trees. So this is one we planted last year. We have a second peach. So when they go in, this has had a year to grow. And it's about waist high and has 2 or 3 shoots off of it. Fast forward a year later, on second year, and this is what a bare root tree will look like there. And then probably year 3 or 4, this peach tree's been in probably 4 years, and it's probably 12 feet tall, 14 feet tall. I had to get on a 10-foot ladder just to prune it. And yeah, that gave us a lot of peaches last year. So kind of the evolution is really cool to see, and just really shows that if you plant bare root, they're smaller to start, but then they really start to do well once the roots take over. You really want to prioritize the soil. So if you're going to a garden center, you actually don't really want to look at up high, and you actually want to sometimes get smaller plants so that they're not root bound. So you really want to prioritize the soil, keep the trunks protected, and that'll give you a stronger plant in the long term. So that's the kind of walk through the garden. Back here, we just gonna try to start to get some flowers going back here. So this was really taken over by maple trees and vines, and so that'll be a constant battle for us. But the good news is it tackled most of it last year, and now it's really just kind of maintaining. So that's the high-level walk through the middle of the garden. Now to kind of walk back up around the outside. So a couple plants that I just kind of want to show off, a little more exotic. So this one, it's a honeysuckle, and it fruits elongated blue plant berries, and they taste kind of like blueberries. And then here we have pawpaw trees, a couple of them, and so they probably take some 7 years to produce, and I could not yet tell you what a pawpaw tastes like because it's only been 4. So this is kind of the shaded part of the garden. So those will come back. We have another honeysuckle here. So this is where we had potatoes last year, and a plum tree which has done quite poorly. So we're trying to nurse that back to life. Then back up the side, we got chickens roaming around, and solar panels on the roof that we got probably 4 years ago. So that's the kind of high-level tour of the garden. Not much else I can think of at this point, but yeah, I'll keep posting videos of what we're doing this year, just to kind of show something that you can do when you're out in the yard that isn't just mowing the lawn.